Everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to come on and address you. Talk a little bit about how things go in Albany. You know, where all good ideas go to die. And give you a little bit of background on myself first, and then we'll kind of go into the process that led to the reason why we're meeting here, this evening. First term senator from Otsego County, live just outside of Cooperstown with my wife, and my two kids are grown out of the house. And not only do I covet the title of senator, but I more covet the title of Papa to my grandkids. And I think this is this past week how that's going to affect them. I'm a sausage maker by trade. My dad was a German sausage maker, came over in the early 50s, worked in our family business since the time I was 8 years old. So I had a boning knife in my hand before I had a crayon, is what I tell everybody. I went into school, graduated with a degree in the culinary arts, and I have been out in the industry as a chef. And I work in my other business that I'll use the word semi-retired. I'm the CEO of a food ingredient company where we do research and development and product development for food companies. So I'm a research chef as well. Moved our company from College Station, Texas to Schenevus, New York in Otsego County in 2017. And at one of these events, I was at an event like this, and I tell everybody I'm an astute businessman, and then I tell them about moving my company from Texas to New York. And this is the response I get. So I try to omit that part of it anymore, exactly, to add a little credibility to my talk.
Came to the vampire state.
It was a definite experience. I could go on about that as well. I am the ranking member on some interesting committees and members of other committees. I'm the ranking member on the Internet and Technologies Committee. I'm the ranking member on the Alcoholism and Substance Abuse Committee. I'm on Education, Higher Education, Health, and I think more importantly right now, Judiciary. So we're kind of, I'll use the word, I'm kind of uniquely positioned, I think, in some of my committee assignments to deal with some of the issues that we see before you. I've been a concealed carry permit holder since 1986. I am an absolute strong advocate of not only the First Amendment and Second Amendment, but all of our amendments. I am an outdoorsman, and I like to hunt, fish, all those things that I think young boys that grew up in my era grew up doing. And so it's very important to me to keep this part of the experience, if you will, alive. And again, I say I'm doing this not only for you, not only for me, but in a selfish manner for my grandkids, as well, to keep that life open to them. So, what happened? Well, as I think Elmer said, we had a really big victory that came down from the highest court on our Second Amendment rights. And then in a tit for tat that I haven't seen the likes of since my sister used to get upset when I would scoop something out of her dessert dish, our governor, Kathy Hochul, comes back with this venom of legislation. Here was the way it kind of materialized. So we were called into session, into special session, and we were told to arrive in Albany no later than noon on Thursday. Now mind you, at this point, we have not seen any bill language whatsoever covering any. We hear bits and pieces, you hear the rumor mill, you get a lot of little things, but we did not hear, or I didn't see, if you will, the bill language as written at all. Called in at noon. We were told approximately at 4 p.m., 5 p.m., make plans for staying for dinner, but that we should be getting bill language after dinner. We would be able to review it and we would be voting on it. 9 o'clock came. Still hadn't seen the bill language. Still hadn't heard any other news as to what was going to happen. Midnight came, same. 2 a.m. on Friday morning, mind you, we were there Thursday, 2 a.m. Friday morning, they finally released us and said we would not have the bill language in front of us.
You had to stay in your office then?
I have a couch that I swear was designed by the North Koreans as a torture rack. So yes, I live an hour away from Albany, and I debated on whether I was going to drive home or not. But again, they could have called us in at any moment. I still had the ability to do remote, but I figured, you know what, I'm going to stay on board. So I did. I did not get what we would say a restful night's sleep, but that's all right. Called back in at 9 a.m. Friday morning. Again, we were told we'd be out of there by noon. By noon, we still hadn't seen the bill language. Now, mind you, they've had how much time to call special session? We'd heard all kinds of other rumors about it, but we had not seen one bit of the bill language up until that point. Now, again, this is simply a waste of all our valuable times. It's a waste of your money to bring us in. Totally showing, in my opinion, and look, I'm not here to bash either side. I could care less, an R and a D and I or whatever, but if you're not doing your job and if you're not competent, I don't care. I'll call it out. And in this case, our governor, this was an absolute travesty as to what went on to that point. Anyway, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we got the bill language. By 2:30, they were almost ready, they were ready to call for a vote. You had 30 minutes to review probably one of the most important pieces of legislation that I, as a freshman legislator, would have had the opportunity, or I did have the opportunity to vote on. 30 minutes to comprehend everything that they had put forth. And as we got it, I started to look at it, and as a concealed carry permit holder since 1986, I started to see some of these words that kind of jump out at me. And when it's not clearly defined, it allows for speculation, which is the worst thing that can happen in any of this. And it goes through, some of the nomenclature here. This bill expands the disqualifying circumstance, especially if you've had anything to do with a mental health facility, whether you were involuntarily committed or if you voluntarily committed. That's going to be a huge mark against you as you start to move forward, whether you are currently in possession of a permit or would like to get one. They did have some things here, with being convicted of offenses within 5 years, and they listed those. I'm not going to go through unless anybody really wants to hear it, and I'll stay as long as you want tonight and talk about and show you what I have here in the bill language. One of the disturbing parts the first thing that I came down to was that the applicant would also be required to provide a list of their social media accounts from the past 3 years as we start to move forward. What happened to your First Amendment right?
That's right. What happens if you don't have a social media account?
Then you don't have to supply it if you have one.
Are they going to question?
So these are absolutely. The biggest thing I can tell you all right now is if you apply common sense to this, it doesn't work. It really doesn't, and that's a shame. It truly is a shame, but that's a great question. I don't know. They didn't give us the briefing. They haven't decided what they want to do, apparently, on that. Under the revocations, notice of revocation must be issued in writing and include the basis for the determination if they're going to revocate for these reasons. An applicant or license holder would be able to request a hearing to appeal the denial within 90 days of the denial of revocation. Now, when we had COVID, and they basically had, if any of you had been unemployed and went for your unemployment benefits, I don't have to tell you what an absolute show that was in trying to get somebody in Albany to answer your call, answer your email, or just give you the information that you deserve. My office was inundated. We did more of that work in the time frame that I was there than when I talked to our staff than my predecessor, Jim Stewart, had done in the last 2 years of his term. So again, this is something that I'm sure our offices are going to be inundated with that. Under training requirements, there are some things I don't disagree with. Some things I'd like a little further definition. So general firearm safety, safe storage requirements, and general secure storage best practices, state and federal gun laws, situation awareness, conflict de-escalation, best practices for encounters with law enforcement, statutories define sensitive places. Remember that word, sensitive places. Conflict management, use of deadly force, suicide prevention, basic principles of marksmanship, or what they have down now is training requirements. It goes from now being recertify from 5 years to 3 years. Every 3 years you will have to do this. And correct me, gentlemen, is it 16 or 18 hours?
Yes, they originally said 15, now it's 16.
Okay, so, and I'm hearing it may be closer to 18.
It's plus 2 hours of range time, right?
Okay.
16 plus 2.
Okay, so that's where the 18
Yeah.
potentially could be coming in. So that's what I'm hearing.
Did they change the existing law to reflect that? Because right now, if you don't have a permit, you cannot handle a firearm.
They did
You
change
cannot handle a
They
handgun.
changed that. 265's been amended now.
And I would defer to these two extremely intelligent gentlemen when it comes to...
Whoa, now you just disqualified yourself.
Extremely intelligent gentlemen right
Would you like me to start the recording again?
And you got that on tape, so I just want to make sure, right?
Now,
So,
what happens if you had 16 hours worth of training already? I went through Nassau County. They required 79.
doesn't that, it's from September on, you will have to doesn't matter, your slate is basically white clean.
Things are rules.
Yeah.
No grandfather,
All the day. All the day.
so nothing's grandfathered in then?
No, nothing is grandfathered in, correct. You're gonna have a written exam, you gotta score at least 80%. There'll be some live firing, 2 hours. And current concealed carry license holders would be required to complete this training prior to the first renewal of their license after the effective date of the law.
So now, if you don't renew or do the certification, it's not that big a deal.
I would
In
say,
New York City, if you're supposed to renew your license, if you don't renew it, they
Right.
come in and take your gun away.
So it is a big deal if you don't renew and you try to amend your pistol license, either because you moved or you bought a new gun, they will pull your pistol license. You lose your pistol license and your guns.
It's happening right now.
I'm dealing with cases right now.
Okay, before we get into that, can we stick on the policy and the process that was used on this, and then we'll open it up where...
and I'll hit just a couple more high points and then I can, because I'm sure everybody's got more questions than not. The key that I felt really to this piece of legislation as we delved into it, and one that we really focused in on is now the designation of sensitive places, which in essence, basically is everywhere. And they have, in their efforts to counteract what the highest court laid down, they have basically gutted the ability now to have a concealed carry anywhere, okay? And it goes through everything. One of the points I'll bring up, I'm a member of my emergency squad in the town that I live in. Whenever we hear we have an overdose, I would always carry on it. Not, at times we're showing up actually pre-law enforcement. We've had that happen. By the new law, I am excluded as that from from the part of being I would be a Class E non-violent felony, because one of the sensitive places that they've outlined is basically all medical facilities. I'm speechless. Here's the one that got me though, out of all of them, and there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, out of 17 designated sensitive places. This is the one that got me. You ready? Any gathering of individuals to collectively express their constitutional rights to protest or assemble. Let that sink in.
You want to have a rally?
Anything.
You can't carry.
Right now, because we're basically talking, I'm not instituting my Second Amendment rights, although I've been threatened on the campaign trail, so I would do it very often. Technically, once this law goes into effect, if we were at this and I was carrying, I could be a Class E violent felon. 1986, 33 years? 32 years? Oh, no, more than that. 36. 36. I should know that, I was married. 36, yeah, so 36 years, and I've never had a mark, never had nothing, and I'll be, even as a senator, it doesn't matter, I'll be a Class E non-violent felon. Unbelievable. The database is another one, as we know, that they're putting together, that I just don't see how funding and workforce are two huge issues that have not been addressed in this. And I don't see this taking place without those two being addressed and taken care of. So again, without asking stakeholders like these two gentlemen who know, and those of us that are, in basically outdoorsmen and believe in our Second Amendment rights, without asking us some of these things, they just went ahead and said, yeah, the bill requires the statewide licenses and record database be created and maintained. This was part of the SAFE Act, if I remember right, and still hasn't been done. Still hasn't been done.
So before you leave that was one of the things I wanted to ask. The budgeting for this and the additional staff. In the debate that was on the Senate floor during the special session, the sponsor took questions from anyone who wanted to get clarification on what was in the law. And
Just a dialogue for answers, and we kind of get the
They didn't get components, right?
with that.
They didn't get components.
Meaning what? The components.
ghost guns.
Oh, ghost guns. Well, ghost guns was a big topic of conversation as well. I'm trying to remember now what we did. Well, look, it was easy for me. I remember voting no.
Yeah, so let's start with that. So let's start with that.
Yeah.
Want to make sure that everybody, that we put you on the record here. How did you vote on, there was an earlier package, which included the 18-year-old
Yep.
deal.
Yep.
And then there was the big special
Yep.
package.
Yep.
And just for the record,
So for the record, I voted no on both.
Okay.
There was a newspaper who contacted me from down this area, and the way that it kind of went was we wanted to get your opinion on this pending legislation. My response was, I'd have to look at the bill language to understand what, how this was being framed, okay? She specifically asked me, well, what about raising the age to 21 for a 21-year-old to have a semi-automatic rifle? And my direct response was, it falls in line with the pistol permit, which is a 21, age of 21. But again, I have to see the bill language. So, I said, once I see the bill language, I'll see what we have to do. The way it was, I guess, taken a little bit out of context, was that I was in favor of that portion of the bill, which is totally false. I voted no once we saw it. Because, again, when we were debating the bill with the senator we asked him, we said, well, what about a Ruger 1022, which is the most popular semi-automatic and one that I would love, that I own, that I would love to give to my grandson, to start him out onto it. And he says, that's a semi-automatic? And here's the sponsor of the bill that doesn't even understand that. So for the record, I voted no on both pieces of legislation. And I'm going to tell you something else. It almost comes down to, if you're going to play these type of games where you try to wear us down physically, get us in there, wait at 2 a.m., send us home or whatever, call us back, half a day, give us 30 minutes to review and then vote on something, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to vote no way. I mean, there's no way that I can represent each and every one of you to the level that you not only deserve, but should yeah, on that type of a system.
Plus no debate.
Well, okay, so now we get into the other parts of that, which is the message of necessity, which is what they use instead of allowing the bill to constitutionally age 3 days. The governor has the ability to issue a message of necessity. Now, my response was, what was the necessity? What was the hurry? Very simply, the political posturing, the political image, for them to come out and to be the first in the nation to counteract what the High Court had just given us, basically, to get that given us. So everybody, and then we'll open up for questions. Everybody asked me, so what can you do, Senator? What can you do? Here's what you can do. And I'm doing this, okay? Number one, each and every one of us that is a firm believer in our Second Amendment, First Amendment rights, loves the outdoors as much as I do. I am challenging each and every one of you to find 2 individuals who have given up. I hear it all the time. My vote doesn't count. And you know what I say to them? You're right. Your vote doesn't count, because if you don't vote, it doesn't count. We have a lot of people that are disenfranchised and have given up. Find 2. Find 2. I'm doing it. In fact, I had a great debate with a friend of mine, and his name is Marcus Mallon. He's an Irishman, and if you know all Irish, they love to argue, and we argued. And in fact, I think we even had some adult beverages which helped him to argue. But he'd given up. He said, "That's it. My vote. It doesn't matter." You're absolutely right. I said a man who says he's right, a man who says he's right, and a man who says he's wrong, they're both right. They're both right. You have to be. We have to get energized. We have to get the ballot box is where we're going to win this fight. The ballot box is where we're going to win this fight.
So that I wanted you to go back and just ask you, do you think that because of Hochul's reaction to the SCOTUS to push the second bill, and not just the first package, which we already felt was really aggressive, but the second one was clearly a reaction to SCOTUS.
Yes.
Do you think that helps her, or do you think that makes her, gives her a vulnerability coming into this election?
I think it's a vulnerability. I really do. I mean, look, there's no doubt that when Governor Hochul first came on, I was asked what do I think. I said, well, she's from upstate. I said I can only hope that she would have some of our upstate values. It's a term that
She was at one time her A rating for the NRA.
Yep, when it was convenient.
Yeah.
So now you start to then get a window into who she is and her psyche. I said this too. I said this to a friend of mine, when Governor Como was still in, and they were talking impeachment, and I'm on the judiciary, so there was some talk that, you know, we may be called in, for the impeachment. I said, look, I'm gonna tell you, you know, sometimes the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, and what he had, which she doesn't, he had the political mass to not let the left and the far left move him. He fought with them, he fought with them as much as any of us would. And there were many things that Governor Como and I didn't see eye to eye on, but that part of it, and I made that comment, I said, if he goes, whoever comes in is gonna be vulnerable, and it came to bear
The
fruit.
Democrats never get rid of anybody. They couldn't care, pardon my, if he raped somebody, if he was the political machine they wanted. Once they started to get rid of him, guys, open your eyes. They want somebody else because you used to push back. But the Republicans jumped right in there. Oh, great, we're gonna get rid of Cuomo.
Well, again, so the minority conference in the Senate looked at it as a victory, right?
Yeah,
That-
and
right?
I'm laughing my head off.
And again, I'm not criticizing, you know, anybody can armchair quarterback till the cows come home, but I, at that time said, this may not be the victory that you think it is.
Did you think I mean, seriously, did they think they were gonna put somebody in there that was more conservative than Cuomo? How stupid can you be? And I'm not trying to criticize you.
No,
as part of the
listen.
Republican Party.
The one thing I can tell you about my short tenure in Albany, I got hide like a gorilla. So, I mean, you know, you gotta be able to take the heat if you're gonna be in this thing. Almost verbatim is what we've said the same thing, that who else are they gonna go to? Who else are they gonna go to? And then when she picked Benjamin, Senator Benjamin, who we all know, you know, is in the midst of his own issues down there when it came to campaigning and the SAM grants and, you know, pay for play type of thing. So, yeah.
I mean, it was so obvious. I
Sure.
don't want to belabor this.
No,
It was
you're
so
right.
obvious.
You're right.
Why did they get rid of this guy? Oh, because
Right.
he was abusive to women.
Right.
How many Democrats could you find that were in the same category, but were more?
It fit into their narrative when it came to the women side of things, as opposed to, he should have been out of there for when he did for COVID. We all know that. But they chose to bring the abuse of women. That was something they couldn't defend. They couldn't defend that. And that was why.
Okay, let me ask one more question that's specific for the Senate, and then we can break it out into see what Joe and, is there any sense of data that's coming from the Senate leadership, the minority leadership, that there are key districts that are being targeted for flipping to
Yes.
our side?
Yes.
How do we look there?
So I can't give you too much, but I will say this. Pertaining to the legislation that was just passed and to the methodology for key districts to be flipped. The victory that we had when it came to redistricting in the courts, some of the same minds are working behind the scenes on this.
So we're calling redistricting for the Senate districts a victory. We feel like we came out pretty good on that.
Absolutely.
Okay, and right now, I think it's 43-20.
43 to 20.
And what kind of increase are we projecting?
What?
You heard I said we're
Yeah, I was
projecting
gonna say,
increase.
so I like that. You're saying project.
Presumptive.
Yeah. So.
Maybe you can't answer that. You don't have
Well,
to.
I will say this. We are extremely confident about getting rid of the supermajority.
Okay.
Okay? I believe we had to take 13, I believe it was 13 seats to get back into the majority. So I'm just going on, so one of our senators is primarying another senator, so there's one seat that that potentially we're gonna be down. Locally, Senator Martucci isn't running, so there's 2 seats down. There is a good competitive race, I believe, with Sue Serino and Senator Hinchy. So there's 3 that if we're looking at plus or minus, so now what we would say is, or at least I would as a businessman if I was looking at this, there's two for sure, the third one can go either way, I would say. So now, if all the other ones come through, we'd have 10, and we still would be in the majority. But this is also starting to take an effect, and I've started to see it now with some of my colleagues from across the aisle. They've changed their tenor and they've changed their tone, especially when they've been speaking to me. Now, they, out in public or whatever they say, you know, in the press, is the same talking points. But I have seen, this is starting to, they're starting to take notice of all the potential red waves, the term that I would use, out there. And down on Long Island, where it's extremely important, the bellwether that was down there was Nassau County, the executive. That had been a Democrat in there for over, what, 30 years. And Bruce, I think it's Blankenship, is now the county exec down there, and he's a Republican. So I tell everybody on this, there's hope. There's hope. There's hope.
Okay, so,
Yeah. We had a question down there. Yeah.
Where's our vote?
I agree with you, and I'm a very strong advocate of voting. But I have to tell you, with the situation we have before us today, I do not believe we can afford to wait until November. Something has to be done to turn this around yesterday. Today is already too late. And, you know, so whether we gain back the Republican Senate or not in November is nothing if we don't undo what we have in front of us today.
What about illegal challenges? Where does that stand?
That's being compiled and strategized right now. Look, there'll be no doubt it'll be challenged. No doubt it's going to be just.
You know, the trouble is going to take, what, 4 or 5 years?
No. That I can't tell you. I wish I could. I wish I could answer that question with a definitive, at this time, at this place, and in this. I can't. The only thing I can tell you right now is if we go through the process that we have previously, we will not be successful. We will not be successful. The low voter turnout. Look at just for we were looking at the numbers for the primaries. So there was a 2-to-1 advantage already with the primaries. Now, mind you, there was quite a few in the field for the Republicans, but when we took all the numbers, there was still a 2-to-1 advantage for Democrats that came out in their primary. So part of our strategy has been, how do we get those that have identified as independent, how do we get them engaged? Because there's a huge number out there of those folks. And I'll be honest with you, when I'm out there and I'm talking, those are the folks that I'm addressing now. Those are the folks I'm addressing now, is the independents. Yes?
I work for the Board of Elections,
Yes.
and a few independents did come in the early voting and on the day that we had the vote. And in order for them to vote, they had to fill out an affidavit and go to a party, either Republican or Democrat. That's the only way they could vote. Another problem that we have is, I worked in Stone Ridge Firehouse.
Yep.
You got 1,500 people registered to vote there. We had a turnout of 400.
I don't know how. Well, let me answer it this way. If now we can't motivate folks to get out and vote, now, with everything else that's gone on, then to me, that's the bellwether moment for me to say,
And the people who don't vote are the ones that are doing the biggest business.
that's human nature, and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I had a individual call me up, chewing me out left and right, and we checked our we have, you know, the ability to check who it is and everything like that. They were an independent, and they were chewing me out, and I'm like, wait a minute, why? You know, you got just, but anyway. But if this doesn't get, if each and every one of us can't motivate 2 people, I'm telling you, I break it down to its simplest thing. Each and every one of us. I defy you to think that you can't come up with 2 people that have just said, I'm done. and bring them, physically bring them to vote.
I got a Tilio, I got dibs on the Tilio.
I was just saying, you know, but yes, in the back.
Yeah, I think the only way we're gonna beat this is there has to be an injunction filed, and it has to be done through the courts quickly. I agree with getting two people and all that. I've been involved in the political process for probably 35 years. I've been a chairman, I've went through.
Thank you, by the way, for doing
And
that.
I've gotten petitions signed every year. Now we have 24, 28 committeemen in the town of Ulster. We represent the town of Ulster for the Conservative Party. Been there, done that, we're always working at it. However, this thing, the only way this is gonna really be beat is through the courts, and it has to be done quickly, and it has to be done decisively. This is a direct affront to a Supreme Court ruling that they have just thrown to the side, and they're doing it because they can. Okay? And whether it's Democrat or Republican, the only thing we're gonna hang our hat on is the Constitution. And we're gonna have to, I don't know, get some lawyers to do pro bono or something, but we need to get this done through the courts quickly.
You know,
He's right, we need to have a court decision before the end of this month.
I can guarantee you that's not gonna happen.
The Supreme Court remanded, what, about 4 or 5 cases back to the courts to be redecided. And these are some of them that had to do with magazine, had to do with ARs. How you would do this legally, but I think if we can get something up to, maybe we send Clarence Thomas a copy of what the state did, he'll have a meltdown and put an injunction on it.
That discussion that you just brought forth was almost verbatim in the conference room.
The minority conference.
The minority conference, I should say, yes, the minority conference room. All 20 of us said the exact same thing to our leadership. We're like, we have to do something now and quickly, because what we said was, it'll be a message to all of you that we're on top of it. We're on top of it, right? And as you can see, it still hasn't been done. I 100% agree, 100% agree with what you just said. If I was Rob Orr, leader, I would say that that's something that should be done post-haste. Yes, absolutely. Because again, it's messaging everybody. It's messaging everybody that, yeah, we take it seriously and we're on top of it. Yes.
Okay. Getting back to what Elmer was saying before, you too. There are a number of Second Amendment advocates, big ones. Some of them are constitutional attorneys. Okay, and last week, I saw this. GOA filed a federal lawsuit against all of this. This week, FPC, Firearms Policy Coalition, not only did they do that, they also filed one against the SAFE Act. So this stuff has been waiting for a whole, they knew it was coming, and they've been
For the lines, when it came to the congressional lines, the Senate lines, and everything. They basically poo-pooed it and did the same thing they're doing with this piece of legislation, right? They knew that at the end of the day, that if the Republicans and the Democrats that were in that independent redistricting didn't agree, it fell to the legislature to define the lines. Well, who's in charge of the legislature? Do you see what I'm saying? So it went back through that thing, and then I can only speak personally for me, my lines put me in a potential primary with another seated Senate Republican. So the process that went through that was, again, we went through the courts, we had our arguments, and we were successful. I mean, I don't think anybody, truly, some of us included, didn't think we would be that successful in getting that overturned. It's the same process that I think where we are right now. Yes, yes.
Speaking as someone who's, the other side of the aisle and has been sort of red-pilled and alarmed now, I'm thinking that based on everything I've been reading and all the research I've been doing, I think it's this is all part of a larger movement of globalization, like pushed by the World Economic Forum and the WHO and the Klaus Schwab Gates Trudeau's, Ardern's of the world. And I think that, based on what I've been studying, is that I really feel like we need a multifaceted strategy, not just on this one particular issue, but on all the issues that we really need to kind of come together and try and inform our community. So not just focusing on, First Amendment, Second Amendment, but just all of the rights that are being whittled away from us. And so one of the, some of the other organizations, I think that it might be useful to reach out to them. Some of the other organizations right here locally, there's a group in Dutchess County, called Dutchess County Volunteers. There's United New York State and Audit New York. And one of the things that you mentioned about voting, I absolutely agree. We all need to vote. I voted in every single election since I was 18.
Same here.
But if the elections are fraudulent, then which you can't say without everybody in the world looking down on you. But if they're fraudulent, which Audit New York has many places have, but Audit New York State has been finding all of these duplicate registrations.
Irregularities, yeah.
So, I think we really need to focus just as much on that as in addition to getting people to vote and making people realize, no matter what part of the political spectrum you are, that this is impacting us, all of us. And on the court issue, so Kathy Popo, I brought this up yesterday. Kathy Popo, I don't know if many of you were aware of it, but she did an end run around the legislature to get these quarantine camps in place on the books that gave her the power, the Department of Health, the power to detain and quarantine anybody they felt was a threat to public health and safety, basically without due process, anywhere they wanted, for any length of time that they wanted. It was absurd. She couldn't get the legislature to pass it, so she had her executive committee of the Department of Health write this regulation, and it was codified. It was codified without the enabling statute of the legislature. So a lawyer by the name of Bobby Cox took, with the help of some other senators, took her to court, and they recently won, I think just last week. So, I think these types of things we really need to highlight in terms of, come November, what's happening up in Albany and all over our country. So in terms of winning supporters, it's like, I think nobody's going to disagree with, our preserving, our non-fraudulent elections and our right to decide what we can do with our bodies and protect ourselves. Most people anyway. So I think we need to sort of build a larger network.
We need a larger coalition, not just gun people.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. Well, one of the things interesting about that is, and I, sitting on education, I ask a lot of students, both from higher ed, when I'm at college, and ed, when I'm in school, do they know about the Bill of Rights? Do they know about the Constitution? Do they know? And you know what? They absolutely don't. So the other key component of not only getting people who have been disenfranchised to vote, I carry around with me the actual Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and I make sure I did you here. Look, we're beautiful. We're behind, folks. We're behind. The Democrats have been. I have to give them some credit. They have done this for years and have been able to take away. Look, social studies, right? You don't. It's not taught anymore. It just isn't. Okay. I'm seeing some of the CRT, the critical race theory coming down on education. I'm arguing, debating within committee on these things, and I see where this is going. So again, a key component, another facet of what we're talking about is education. We got to start educating young kids as well as our others. Seriously, absolutely valid point. Absolutely valid point. Yes, I'm sorry. Yep.
I have a very close friend of mine who is a general in the Israeli army. They don't have these problems over there because all of the guards that are in school are walking around with a Uzi. And every teacher that's in a classroom is having a concealed weapon on them, and they're all trained. They don't have this bullshit going on, and that's why everybody's running scared after the fact. But no matter what they do to us, the criminals are still going to have the goddamn weapons.
I made a comment, I said, so name, if you can get to me the number of concealed carry permit holders that have committed a crime, send me that information.
You know what Hoshel said about that?
I don't need them, I know.
I don't need numbers.
Go ahead, tell him what you said.
He says, I don't need the numbers.
That's right.
Cut him right off.
I don't need the numbers.
Yes, you do.
Unfathomable is a term that I use. Unfathomable.
You know, you talk about the schools and stuff, and you're gonna think I'm crazy. But if you look every incident, every school shooting, who benefits from it? The Democrats. They have no desire to stop it. They have no, you see all the murders and the killings that are going on in the city. What does it do? It scares people. And what do people say? They have no guns. Oh, we have to do something about guns. We have to do something about gun control. There's a book that was written in 1932 called Towards Soviet America. You want to get a chill up your back? Chapter 3 has everything that they are doing now. What groups you go, how you do it, how you, right down the line. This hasn't been played for a long time.
We put forth legislation onto the floor to be voted on, saying that we as Republicans wanted armed resource officers in every school. One in every school. Now, at the point that the evil is to be perpetrated, because these, look, you can't legislate out evil. We all know that, right? Those are the common sense. You can't legislate morality and those type of things. But we can make legislation at a point that the evil is going to be perpetrated. They wouldn't even let it come to the floor. That's a common sense approach to the issue that they keep using to promote further gun laws, is the school shootings. We all know that would do much. We have more security, right, to get on an airplane than we do going in our schools. What's more valuable?
Going after the gun laws is a lethal red herring, because they're not dealing with the real causes.
Right.
Or, what could be done, like you just said.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna cut it off here. No more questions. One more question, the last question of the night. No, you had a chance to speak, sorry.
If it's the last one, it's gotta be an easy one.
It's gotta be an easy one.
It's fairly easy. I've read several times the entire bill, and my reading of the entire bill says that anybody that's HR 218 card carry, the law doesn't have the application. Somebody needs to correct me on that, because even the requalification process and the mental health process is discounted in the legislation. Could somebody say one way or the other if I'm reading this correctly? That's what I'm reading.
What's your question on 218?
That all this bill doesn't have an application to HR 218 carriers, card carriers.
Police were exempted, so I don't know what's gonna happen in the bill.
Well, it says retired, it says retired, and those that are in conformance with HR 218.
Are you retired law enforcement?
Yes, sure.
So we should talk after this, not now. But
Okay, but I'm interested in knowing.
we can talk after this.
Okay, so just before you go, Senator, could you please?
What's the answer to that?
The answer is he doesn't know the answer. It's being determined by the policy writers at DCJS and State Police. That guidance is going to come down. It hasn't come down yet, so we don't have a definitive answer. They're going to commiserate after the meeting. So, can you give your contact information and also Mira?
And I do have some handouts, which is probably the easiest thing to give, if that's okay.
Okay.
With that information onto it. And then this is the only little shameless piece I'm gonna do. I did bring some.
You have to say it for the minutes, though.
I know,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I did bring some of my outdoorsman for Oak Rocker signs. Now, I will just blow my own horn a little bit on this. When I was designing those, I put a bullseye onto it, okay? It is a regulation bullseye for 100-yard sighting your rifle in. What I would use all my older political signs for, come deer season, put my targets on there and I would sight my gun in them. So when I went and designed this, my staff said, there's no way you should do this, you shouldn't do this, and I said, we're gonna do it anyway. Here's the other thing, out of all the signs that we have to go pick up after the election,
They're gone.
that ain't one of them. That ain't one of them. So I just wanted to say, you're more than welcome, I have them there. Those that want it, fine, those that don't, that's okay.
Yeah, and so just to say, it's Town of Warsing, Shangon, Gardner, Marbletown, Denning, Hardenburg, and Olive. Those towns specifically are in the district.
And again, guys, I want to thank you. And I do want to leave you with this. There is hope. There is hope. If you see me on the news or find out I've left New York, then it's time, then it may be time to get
We're going too.
Get out. But I'm telling you, I'm going to fight like hell. I'm going to fight like hell up there. And there's hope. There's hope. Thank you.
And the phone number to call is, do we know it? I'll just insert it.
So it's, it's 607-432-5524. That's my district office in Oneonta.
607?
Yep, 607-432-5524.
And if you ask for Mira,
Yes.
Mira will make sure that he's available to come speak to your club, especially if you're in one of those towns. If you're
Mira
not in
makes
one of those
sure I'm
towns-
at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And then my other staffer, Jeff, makes sure I'm intelligent, pain and easy job. So I'm just telling everybody right off the top. But again, I can't thank you enough for the opportunity to come and address you. And hopefully, when we get through the primary and the general, we are, I've lost 3 of my western counties. So I had another office out there. We're going to be looking at putting an office down that would take care of the lower half of Delaware, Ulster, and
Sullivan.
Sullivan. Yeah, I had to think of it. So all of Sullivan, yeah, it's all of Sullivan, and then what I have here in Ulster and the southern half of Delaware.
What counties did you lose?
So I lost all of Portland County. I lost 6 towns in Cayuga, 8 towns in Tompkins, and another 8 towns in Herkimer. I had the second largest Senate district in New York up until that point.
That's where most of your votes came from.
We'll take care of it.
Okay.
So how this is going to turn out, nobody knows right now. I'm a trainer, I'm a state trainer. Those who are not state certified, ECGS has to certify the instructors. Is anybody here certified as an NRA instructor? Are you NRA instructors? If you are certified as an NRA instructor, you don't qualify just yet. You have to go through a training program and you have to resign yet. Be a state certified, be an instructor certified by the state of New York. And you can do, the curriculum's not here yet, we don't even know what it is. Basic handgun safety for sure, we don't know what the firearms aspect is going to be. They're going to require a qualification, and so what it's going to be, those types of things. So all that's up in the air right now. If anybody tells you they know what's going on, that's baloney, it's not true. I'll get the information, I'll try to get it out as I get it, and Joe's really connected too. The head of the program is a good friend of mine. I called him as soon as this happened. He was at the airport. I think he's leaving the state, but he's coming back. He'll let me know what he hears, and I'll pass the word on to all the clubs through the federation, so everybody at least gets the word, or those types of things, know what's going on. That's one of the issues. As far as everything else is concerned, with how you're going to be carrying guns, what they're going to do, the unconstitutional aspect about not being able to carry a gun constitutionally because of these sensitive place type issues, those issues are going to be probably knocked out pretty quickly. We didn't get to ask the senator one question. Hopefully is going to be here in November. Not hopefully, Zeldin's going to be here. If that's the case, where do we stand after she gets replaced? Because the act has been passed. So we have to handle those things. The other issue is, what's it going to cost? I've spent tens of thousands of dollars in my training to be a state certified instructor for 35 years. I can't work for free. What's it going to cost for 2 days, 16 hours of training? I get $150 a day. So that's gives you some ideas what it's going to cost for 2 days of training and how it's going to work out. And they've never, in the act, they mentioned something a little bit about use of force. Who knows what Article 35 is use of force in New York State law? Who knows? Raise your hand. Law enforcement does too. Okay, most people don't. That's your justification to use force to defend yourself or others with physical or with deadly force. And if you don't know the law, that's not even in the act, a certification program. So there's some issues that have to be dealt with.
Do you have any sense of timeline when the guidelines are gonna come out?
Nobody knows.
Do you have any sense of whether it's gonna be DCJS is gonna run the show or state police, or if they're gonna work together?
DCGS is going to run the show. The state police is going to be asked to be tasked with getting the curriculum, but they already have the curriculums because I'm a state instructor for armed security guards. So that curriculum already exists. I think you're going to kind of massage it into this new act with some variants, including price de-escalation, which is a year's worth of training they want you to do in 45 minutes. So that's going to be in there.
Is there any benefit to having security guard certification? Will there be extra privileges that you could have to carry if you have the certification?
The answer is absolutely. So if you know somebody who trains, I'm a trainer, there's others that are, it's called DCS, you get to schools that are close to you. You get state certified as an unarmed security guard in New York State, it takes 1 day. And you get a state license, 1 day. To get certified as an armed guard in New York State, that erases some of this stuff that's in the act, including the bullet resistant vest, where you can carry the gun, those types of things. So there's articulation of that. The armed training is $650. The 1 day training is $150. So you can figure that stuff out depending on what you want to do. But getting certified as a state security guard, it's available to any civilian who wants to do it. It's not a bad idea.
One of the things that I know as part of the law that was passed, the special session law, is that it opens it up in some way so that you don't have to have a permit in order to handle a firearm. That's been relaxed in some way.
So 265 has been modified now so that people going through the training can handle firearms without pistol licenses. Right now, if you're applying for a pistol license and the judge says, have you ever handled a handgun before? Oh yeah, I used to shoot all the time. You get denied because it's against the law. So that's going to be modified. Or is modified.
Do you have any sense if it's going to be to where basically it became illegal for you and I to go to the range and for you to say, hey, can I try shooting your gun? And me to hand you my handgun and for you to shoot that would be illegal because you're handling my gun and you're not permitted. Is there any sort of change in that, or does the gun that you're borrowing that you're not permitted for, does that have to be under some sort of...
So they have to argue that out because right now that was really passed so that you can train with the 16-hour program they have, so you can train. If you don't have your pistol license yet, because you're going through your pistol, you're going through the certification program. Does that apply to informally going to the range and letting somebody shoot? I would assume that they're going to let that happen. And I don't think, there's nobody that I know, nobody in law enforcement that I know of, that would go to you and say, excuse me, that person you lent the gun to, does that person have a pistol license? And do a police action. I've never heard that ever, even right now. So technically it's against the law, right? You can't let somebody handle a handgun without a pistol license. It's never been an issue since they always won 70 years ago.
Regarding training, is there anything else that, any hidden gems or anything that came out of that?
The training, the 2 hours of training, they're going to probably modify that. I'm a firearms instructor. That's not a lot of time to train with guns on the range, get people familiar with firearms. So I don't know how the training's going to come out. We don't know yet. So we've got to get the curriculums, we've got to look at it. The problem's going to be, there are 375,000 pistol license holders in the state of New York. How long is that going to take to train them? 375,000. How long is that going to take for Ken Cooper to train everybody? Oh, I guess there should be other instructors. But think about that. If people want to get their licenses, people already have a license, have to get recertified. It's going to be an ongoing process. And the problem happened with the Spirit Act. Everybody and their brother thought, oh, I can make money now. They're going to use this as a cottage industry and make money. There's no problem making money if you're certified and really excellent instructors. But if you're an idiot and you want to make money and that's why you're doing it, that's a problem, because we want people to actually now get trained. And I'm a believer in the training. If you're gonna carry a gun, you should have training, no question about it.
Now, is the training only gonna be if you're gonna carry? If you
No.
have-
If you have a gun, today you're not carrying a gun, tomorrow you are. You've got the gun. Training's for anybody getting a pistol license.
All right, so I have a premises permit, I can only use it for hunting and target shooting. I still have to go through.
Absolutely. And you have a premises permit, somebody advised you the wrong way, obviously. Because
No,
everybody should
I
get-
got a full carry.
No, I'm saying somebody does, so, people, when you're applying for the license, you need people, when you apply for the license, I'm dealing with now, licenses being pulled, because people either didn't recertify or made a mistake on a pistol license application. One little error, the judge will deny the pistol license. We have at least 8 anti-gun judges, well, maybe not 8, how many would you say? Too many, that are dealing with your pistol licenses.
I had heard that, what do you call it, sheriff in Olson County, he didn't wanna go and start pulling permits.
Right.
He's not. And the judge says, all right, just get these people to get certified. And again, this is all secondhand, that was told.
Yeah, so that judge, I'll tell you who, one of the judges, he and his wife, McGinty, is pulling pistol licenses and making people surrender their guns right now. I've done 2 cases so far, one was a retired New York City police officer. So we got some issues.
He's pulling them based on what?
Recertifying.
So recertifying late.
Because they failed to recertify by the deadline.
In time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the New York City police officer, that was a whole nother travesty.
Did he send the sheriff or did he send a letter saying you have to submit your?
He sent a letter, we got that rescinded.
Wait a minute, was it that they had to recertify, or it came to her attention that it was done?
He bought his new gun, he recertified at the gun shop. When he went and submitted his paperwork, the judge said, wait, you didn't recertify when it first happened. He was an older guy, he has permits since 1980, didn't even know he had to do it, never got any type of letter from the state police. Some people got letters, a lot of people never got letters. He didn't know, it was not nefarious. So the judge saw that and said, okay, I'm taking your pistol license, surrender your guns. And that just happened yesterday.
Let's go back a little. So Western County started about 3 years ago that you had to have the recertification on the bill of sale when you amended your license. So a lot of people came in, they didn't have that, they didn't know about it. We recertified it right on the spot, and we slid the paperwork in. So we got away with it for about 1.5 years. And then they started looking at the number, because it's a higher number than if somebody actually did it when they were supposed to. And for some reason, they all end up in McGinty's court. Okay, because I haven't had any other judge pull one of the licenses except McGinty. So you don't recertify by the date you were supposed to recertify, and you go to amend the license to take a gun off it or on it, you're gonna get your license pulled.
So if back in January, I was supposed to recertify on the 20th, and I did it on the 25th,
2 days later, I came told. 2 days later. I came into the store 2 days after he was supposed to do it, to get a gun, we recertified him right there.
I mean, are they going back that far and saying,
Absolutely.
this happened? No, you're not modifying your license.
Hey, Joe,
There's no way, if there's no way of them knowing that you haven't done it unless they pull a list. But when you go to amend your license, that's when they're gonna find out.
Joe, I had a customer, came to the shop, he bought a gun, he took another gun in on trade, so forth and so on. He took it up there, McGinty got it. This guy's a two tours in Vietnam. He decorated, involved in combat, whole 9 yards. Pillar of the community.
John Crispell.
This guy worked endlessly with the Boy Scouts and different people. He didn't know about this recertification.
He hadn't done it.
He hadn't done it because he didn't know about it.
Okay, but he
He's
hadn't
an
done
older
it.
gentleman, he wasn't in the loop with all the people talking about it and stuff. They pulled his permit. I took possession of the guns. And McGinty didn't like that. He didn't want a dealer having the guns. He sent Tim McGuire, he used to be a friend of mine. He stopped over, he said, John, I gotta take the guns. I gotta take them to the sheriff's department. McGinty said, you know, that's what you gotta do. So he demanded those 2 guns. He didn't get those guns back yet. In the meantime, he had to go out and get a new permit, go through the whole process, the training, the whole 9 yards. Here's a 2-tour Vietnam vet. I think he's pretty familiar with firearms. He had to do the whole thing, and finally he got his permit. Again, he bought a gun off me and a gun he took in on trade with some guy. They did a trade. He still didn't get his 2 guns. They were low-end guns. I mean, they were a Keltec and something else. But they jerked this guy around. He's like 75 years old. He shouldn't have to go through that.
Just to be clear, that's one of the things with the SAFE Act, is that the SAFE Act did not require any notification to the permit holder.
Which is wrong.
One of the things in the Senate, the debate about the bill on the Senate floor, is that the sponsor said it will be required to notify the permit holder now that they're changing it to the 3-year thing. Not that that makes it, okay what they're doing, but the point is that that is something that the sponsor did say is required going into the 3 years. So we've got to get people to do their research now, but hopefully that won't be as difficult. There won't be as many accidental, I forgot, I didn't know.
John's correct. It wasn't the original SAFE Act that passed into law. It went back 14 months later and made an amendment to it so that the state police didn't have to go through the aggravation because they knew there was 800,000 people that have to.
Is there anything?
So it was changed.
Is there anything that any sort of notifications that have come to the FFLs and to the gun shops as far as here's what's happening, here's what's happened, nothing has changed, it's business as usual, and you'll be notified? Have you had any sort of thing like that?
We have to
No guidance?
It's in our general law, general business law, that we have to stay on. So we have to dig for this information all the time. And how long it took us to dig up these 10 bills. Let me just go back to the first 10 stuff that they issued before this even started with the handguns. All right, so in the original bills that she signed, you guys know that as of September 5th, if you want to buy a semi-automatic rifle or a semi-automatic shotgun, then you need a purchase card from New York State. How do you get a purchase card? We don't know yet.
You make your own.
It's probably going to be through the sheriff's office, but as of September 5th, there won't be any transactions of semi-automatic rifles or shotguns without that card. If you have a pistol permit, it should be easier to get this card when they start issuing. If you don't have a pistol permit, you're going to have to go through some kind of application process and a background check in order to get it. How long is this going to take, or when is it going to start? We have no idea because they haven't written the rules yet. The first meeting they had with the sheriff was about 8 days ago, so there's nothing in it. Which brings me why I got this semi-automatic shotgun that belongs to the Federation here that we need to raffle off by next month because I don't want to carry this gun forever. It belongs to the Federation and wait for somebody to get a card. So, also, my recertification comes up next January because all of us waited until the SAFE Act was ready to go into, when we had to recertify in 2018. So most of us recertify January 30th or 31st, 2017, or 2023. I recommend that you recertify now. 2 things are going to happen. If you wait until after September 1st, you're going to be going through 16 or 18 hard hours with Ken Cooper to get it because you have to have that class in order to recertify. You can't wait until the day before you recertify. You're going to have it. So recertify now. That gains you 2 things. You don't have to go through the class this time. Do one in 5 years. If you recertify before September 1st, you got 5 years. After September 1st, it goes into a 3-year term. You only have to do the class once when you recertify. So if you recertify 3 years from now, 3 years after that, you don't have to take the class again.
Joe, All right. When I went to recertify, when we first started doing it in 2017, we had a whole year to do it. So my assumption was, I certified originally in January, but we had a whole year. So my assumption was, I have 5 years from the end of that first year to recertify. It's from the date you certified is when the 5 years start. Even though you had a whole year to do it initially, if you did it on January 1st, so you got a 5 years from that day.
It went by, anybody that had a license before 2013 had until 2018 to certify. It was a one-shot only. And it had to go by the original issue date, not the date that was on the card, because your card's been updated a couple times. So if you're registered on January 31st of 2018, you need to be recertified before January 30th of 2023. Now, McGinty is wrong when he reads the law because he does whatever he wants. When he revokes the license, in the SAFE Act, once the license is revoked, it can't be reissued. He's telling people to reapply, and he's reissuing it to the ones he wants to reissue to. Some people are not even bothered redoing it. So he doesn't even understand the law that he's enforcing. But the biggest thing is this stuff here. If you're gonna buy a 1022 for your kid for Christmas, you better buy it now, because I don't know when you're gonna get a registration card. The other things, the stores, they changed the general laws on us. We have to have cameras inside and out of every entrance. We have to have cameras over top of every register. We have to record every firearms transaction. And we have to keep the data for 2 years. There's no systematic out there that I know of that will take that much data for 2 years. Our ammunition's gonna be off the floor. It can't be where the customer can get to it. And it's gonna have to be, and it can't be locked up with our guns, so it has to be in a separate area than the guns. And there's certain restrictions on young people in the stores and all that. So this was on the first set of garbage that they passed in early June. That didn't include this stuff here now. So this is like the icing on the cake tonight.
So you did get guidance from the laws that were passed in June?
Well, we had lawyers review them. Well, we read them.
You read, so you took it on yourself? Okay. Got it.
And we have to stay on top of it, because otherwise, you know, we went 7 hours round trip to an ATF meeting. 7 hours driving, 4 hours in the ATF meeting. And they're gonna kinda like combine a little bit with the state police, and they might even do these joint little ventures on the inspections.
So is it gonna be 5 years if, let's say I'm recertified now?
Whatever date you recertified that was legal, it's gotta be within 5 years.
Joe, can I get a question in there? I recertified in January. I had gotten my original certification in March, but I thought it was in January, so I recertified myself. When you recertify, you know you get an email back, and it shows you your number and everything that we have. That we should save them, each time you do it. Now, the part of that question I'm asking is, when I'm recertified, I have 5 more years before I have to do it again. So, somewhere in that talk that the senator said, he said something about 3 years.
After September 1st, if you recertify after September 1st, your new recertification date is 3 years after that, no longer 5.
But the 5 that I have certified for,
You're good.
that's still good.
When you recertify again, it's only gonna be, so you're gonna have to do it every 3 years after that.
And will I have to take a,
You're gonna have to take the test on the first one, or the class.
Okay, I know that there's a lot going on here, but we don't have guidance yet, so, yeah.
So on the classes, if your clubs are doing classes for the basic handgun, get them done by the middle of August. Get these people to get their application in August. Don't wait until September 1st. If it's gone through the sheriff's office on the way to the judge, you're good. Otherwise, if they get it in after September, They're gonna come back to them, and they're gonna have to take the 16-hour course. So if your club's doing basic handgun, for getting a permit now, get them in here. If you got one listed in September, get it in early August, and get those people, give them a hand, get the applications in, make sure they're in before September 1st. This whole ballgame changes in September 1st.
Wittenberg has already scheduled a free basic handgun, and I know Phoenicia is doing them multiples.
Longtown has a handgun safety course Saturday, this coming Saturday. So it's open for
So
more.
as of September 1st, the NRA basic class means nothing anymore.
Okay.
The NRA class, the NRA wording was always in 400, 265. 400 in the law. By them saying that the state police and the DOJS, you see?
DCJS.
Well, there's no letter after it, is it?
DCJS.
Write the curriculum, that takes the NRA right out of it. So whether it comes back or not in the future, you can still take NRA courses because it's very good training. The classes that they're talking about are dedicated toward police. And you don't train police and civilians the same way, so we're gonna have to see how this falls down.
Who's doing the recertification classes now?
There's no class, you just go on the internet.
To recertify your license, you do it on the state police's website. And on it, when you get the printout out of it, it tells you the date when you have to do it again.
And it takes literally less than 15 minutes, literally. You need your driver's license.
But I'm saying, if yours is after September, do it now. And I'm doing mine this week.
What's the
Because I don't wanna
website?
sit
I don't know it offhand, but I'll tell you. I'll tell you
To
before.
get my card? No way.
Hey, Joe, does anybody know?
This thing off next month, so I got a roll of tickets over there, $5 a piece, 3 for $10. It's a nice semi-automatic shotgun with a bunch of chokes. Even comes with a little sock. I don't want to sit on these things because I don't know when we're going to be able to get rid of them.
What gauge?
It's 12 gauge.
Okay.
All right, so see me also.
Got 100, who's got 125? 125, 125.
Can I say something before we move on? Yeah, I got one other thing when you do that. I think that we all need to really examine our consciences and think about the situation that they put us in. The board had approved to do a gun raffle so we can pay the taxes on the property this year. So I had the tickets all made up. When this law just came out now, I redid the raffle to get rid of 2 semi-automatic firearms on there because the raffle goes off at the banquet in September, and the winner might not have a purchase card. So it will be whatever. So I changed the thing around. The tickets will be with me Monday. I couldn't get into the deadline, otherwise I'd have them tonight. So you guys are going to get personal phone calls because we got to get these tickets sold. Prize number 1, Ruger American Rifle with scope, whatever available caliber at the time of the drawing, or a Sig Sauer P320 compact 9mm or $500 cash. Second prize, TriStar 12 gauge over and under shotgun, 28-inch barrel, wood stock, blue barrel, or a CZ P07 9mm or $500 cash. Third prize, Remington 700 rifle, ADL rifle, available caliber at the time of the drawing, or a Sig Sauer P365, either a 9mm or 380, or $500 cash. 4, Charles Daly, 20 gauge over and under shotgun, 26-inch barrel, wood stock, blue, or a Glock 43X 9mm or $500 cash. Number 5, Wicked Ridge Black Hawk crossbow with scope, quiver, and arrows, or a Taurus TX 22 long rifle pistol, or $400 cash. So it's set up so you can have your choice of either long gun, handgun, or the cash. So anybody should be able to buy a ticket. The worst can happen is you take a cash prize. Tickets will be available Monday. The drawing is at the banquet in September. I'm going to lean on you guys to sell them. I need to sell 150 tickets to break even with this. So I want to push for it. There's only 500 tickets, and there's a lot of prizes here. Got it? So this, you would have had the tickets tonight, but I decided the last minute to pull the two semi-automatics off it because here, you won your gun, but you can't take it, you know? So until we know what's going on with these purchases. Anybody got any questions? I'll sit down and shut up.
Yeah, Joe, I got one more question.
Yeah, Joe.
If you have a shotgun, automatic shotgun now,
It's only on future, it's only on purchases after September 5th.
No purchases.
so it's legal.
Joe, under the new law, they're gonna have dual certification, like German and I are dual registered. Our guns are registered.
No, it's got nothing to do with it. The card, the registration card is not gonna be something that goes to New Jersey. They got a purchase card, they can buy either a rifle or pistol off me, depending on their license. If it's a pistol, I gotta ship it to their FFL dealer. If it's a long gun, I can transfer it. If they did it that way, it'd be very simple, because it's done by the local, police department. So the police department captain or whoever, the superintendent there, he's the one, he knows the people locally, they issue the cards locally. This is gonna be issued out of the sheriff's office. How quick's it gonna happen? I don't know, because it said that nobody was gonna bear the cost other than the state, but it's gonna be done by the sheriff's office. How long does it take you to get a coupon now? 2 to 8 weeks? How long do you think it'll take you to get that purchase card?
2 to 8
They're
years.
gonna have cards for a semi-automatic rifle
Or a shotgun?
or shotgun,
Or shotgun.
which has nothing to do with the handgun.
Nothing to do with the handguns.
And you gotta do this on or after September 5th, you gotta do it.
September 5th on, you need a purchase card. Will you get one on September 6th? I doubt it.
You have to go before a judge for the semi-automatic rifle card.
Well, if you have a pistol permit already, then you're already in through the process, so they should be issuing the card in a very short time. If you don't have a pistol permit, then you're gonna go through some lengthy process, whatever they feel is adequate to get the card.
Do we have to
Sounds like
request
it's
it, or
gonna
do
be
we
an
get
I don't know, see, they passed the law, now they're going back and writing the rules. And as they're writing the rules and people like us ask questions,
Right.
they get, well, really? Because they have no idea what an FFL dealer does, what an instructor does, what a gun dealer does, and they have no idea. So when we throw our 2 cents in there, we screw up the whole thing because, well, we didn't think of that. Well, they don't know about it, that's why. So they shouldn't be doing it, but they do, all right?
Yeah, I got a question for the dealers. Have you had any information yet about microstamping? So I know it applies only to brand new weapon or firearms, but when does it go into place? It's voted in.
So what they, if you read the wording of the bill, it actually states that they are funding to research the use of it, okay? The technology doesn't exist now. You'd have to have a jeweler's tools in order to put a number on it. So the technology has always been bogus. It was passed in California. It got thrown out by the, what's that, Fourth Circuit Court there?
Ninth.
And that got thrown out of there. So they know it. So what they worded in the bill is, they worded it that looking into the possibility of its usage. Now, Cobus, we had to bring the shells up there, right, for 10 years? $37 million. When I was in Albany in their office, I said, where's the big forensics thing and everything like that? There's 4 women up there processing all the P12s and the paperwork up there. That $37 million went to some other project in the state. Those shell casings probably got thrown in the garbage as soon as they went up there. So it's just a matter of taking the money from this thing, microstamping, putting it somewhere else. They've known it for 10, 15 years that it's bogus, but they've been trying for 20 years to get a governor to sign it, and the Queen Bee just signed it for them. So, I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about, the reason you haven't had a background check on ammunition is when they put it into the SAFE Act in 2013, they thought that you were going to do it through the NICS system, through the federal government. The federal government says we're not going to do background checks every time a guy wants to do a box of ammo. So for the state of New York to have a database to do background checks on ammunition, they have to take the background check firearms, the NICS system, and run it themselves. 8 states already do that. If you go into Pennsylvania to buy a long gun, you fill out the 4473, you give it to the clerk. She gets on the phone, she calls the state police in New Jersey or Pennsylvania. They run the background check, they get back to her.
So just think me and John will be sitting on the phone calling the state police. First, you gotta get somebody to pick up the phone. And then you gotta read off what's on the sheet to them. We do our background checks on the computer. We don't talk to anybody. Then we gotta wait sometimes up to 30 minutes to get a response back. Sometimes we get an instant to 30. So can you imagine that they're gonna do that? It costs them absolutely nothing now to get a firearms background check done. And they're gonna take on that, they'd have to have 100 people up there.
They are, because they want the data, they want full control of the whole package.
This is the.
They're gonna
this
take your
problem.
background check, they're gonna run it off of Nix, they're gonna run it off the secret database that they've got, you know, you fall under this
They don't have the
category.
horsepower to put this in place.
What it said at the Senate, on the Senate floor, when they were debating the law, is that there is already money in the budget.
Yeah, well,
This is
there may be
budget
money,
zero.
but they
Let me
don't
finish,
have-
Sean, please, let me
they don't
finish.
have the
Let me
know-how
finish and then
or
I'll
the
let you
ability.
talk, or we could just continue to talk over each other. If we could take turns, it would make it easier. So at the Senate, in the Senate debate, they said it would be net zero impact. They said that they were also going to be able to hire 100 people, full-time 100 people jobs on this database project. Now, that's what we asked Senator Oberacker to find out where that money is gonna come from, because they're already on record saying it's already in the budget, there's not gonna be any increase. So if there is an increase, then we can hang them on it. Now,
We
go
can't find
ahead, go
it in
ahead.
the budget.
Go ahead, I don't know.
All right, I'm sure they can pull money from all kinds of places. The county does it, they hide money all around and they can pull that in. They can get the money. I do not believe, now I'll go on record for this, I do not believe they have the know-how or the ability to pull this thing off in a year. Guaranteed. They will not be able to do this. I mean, it is a slim possibility that some genius up there could come up with a way to do it. But I don't think it's gonna get done.
Build back better money through a federal something that doesn't impact the taxpayer here is how they can do that. Okay, is there anything else on legislation? Because we're already way over, and I appreciate everybody's patience, but this is a major legislation
Somebody had a
cycle.
question on ammunition, okay? So, he asked me, after September 1st, can you no longer have ammunition shipped to your house? As of 2013, all ammunition sales are between a person buying and a FFL dealer or an ammunition dealer. I know that Target and all these other companies ship them to your house. Just think of what the state attorney general did with all the ghost gun receivers. They went after the manufacturers. They can't arrest them, but they sued them. They gave their database out. She's out picking up people left and right with ghost guns. It's illegal to have ammunition shipped to your house. I get ammunition in every day for my customers. They ship it into me. Buy your best deal in ammunition, get it shipped into an FFL dealer or to an ammunition dealer. If she gets a hold of the database of where Target Sports over in Connecticut's been shipping ammo to everybody's house, you're gonna lose your pistol permit because you were told 2013 and on, you can't buy ammunition except from a dealer. So,
The sponsor of the bill said, in the law, it says you can't possess body armor. In the law, it says you can't purchase, it doesn't say you can't possess it says you can't purchase or sell body armor in New York. And it says you can't purchase or sell ammunition without a background check once that's set up. But the question was direct to the sponsor. Can you go across state lines and buy it? Yes. Can you bring it back without penalty? Yes. So basically those two things, if this database is created, there's still nothing that says you can't go, just like we used to do for fireworks, to that shop right across the state line, buy something, whatever it is, and bring it back. So
it's purchasing it from your house and having it shipped to your house. That's where you stand.
I think the most important thing to get out to the clubs is we can't just sit back. We have to lean forward, like Attilio is saying. And the two things where we can have an impact are at the ballot. It sounds boring and it sounds dry, but it's at the ballot and it's with lawsuits. I think for another discussion and another time, I think this federation needs to consider putting together a fund that is to help fund lawsuits that are targeting 2A lawsuits. And whether we put something out to ask each club for a specific, so much per member of your club to put into this kitty and get it started. However we start it, we've got to start it because the lawsuits are happening. This is the fastest way for us to have redress. Even though some lawsuits are going to take 4 years to work all the way up, there's a lot that have already started, and there's a lot that have been sent back down to the lower courts to be ruled. Okay, so those two things are the only things I can recommend out to the clubs, is to get your club. When you have somebody who's passionate and outspoken, what can we do? We can get registered to vote, we can get people to turn out to vote, and we can fund the lawsuits. There's probably 10 organizations who are already filing lawsuits. Every person who has whatever is a lawyer is filing lawsuits right now because it's fertile ground. There's so much gun control legislation that's going to get overturned that everybody wants to have a lawsuit, but we're going to have to pick the good lawsuits. We're going to have to support them.
No one has said, or have I heard anything tonight about components?
Bullets, primers, powder.
I didn't hear any of that mentioned in the law.
I don't think anything's been changed. I don't think anything was in the law, you still can buy your.
So that's still status quo.
Although UPS did say that they're going after any company that sells components, especially some company that has Ghost in their title in Florida. UPS said they're going to search through all their packages that they have in their inventory, and they will destroy anything that's in there. Anyway, I know we got other business.
Can we have one meeting so we can hear?
I know we got a lot of things to cover tonight, so I think that's more than enough for one night on legislation. Thank you for your patience, everybody.